The John Wick Movies is a neo-noir action thriller created by Derek Kolstad and directed by Chad Stahelski. It's a series or franchise that follows the title character himself, John Wick, a retired assassin that gets pulled back into the criminal underworld that he had left behind. And I have to say, I really love these movies. They're really artistic, well-directed, and especially, it has the most amazing choreography and action sequences that I've ever seen. It stars not only the amazing, lovable, and what I would consider the Messiah himself, Keanu Reeves, but also has a lot of talented cast that I really love. And this has to be one of the best trilogies that I've ever watched. Well, aside from these. But would soon become a quadrilogy of movies thanks to the upcoming fourth film. But before I have to talk about the movies themselves, this video will contain spoilers, but I am going to be keeping my plot synopsis brief. I'm adding this warning here just in case to some people who still haven't watched this amazing trilogy. Like, what the fuck? Go watch these movies yourself. But if you've already watched the movies yourself, god damn it, I love you. Well, go ahead and continue watching the video. Also, I'm not going to be very specific with the details and lore as I will cover this series again in the future. Anyways, let's begin.
I once saw him kill 3 men in a bar with a pencil.
Okay, so the first movie is actually a pretty basic action revenge thriller, where John Wick, after losing his wife, gets a final gift from her, an adorable little puppy. Going out with his awesome Mustang, he stumbles upon a Russian man-child who so happens to have connections to the criminal underworld. Also, going to be referring to this guy as Russian man-child even though his name is... what? Losef? Yosef? I don't care, man. Russian man-child wants to buy his car, John Wick denies, and the Russian man-child goes ahead and robs John Wick's car and proceeds to kill his dog later that night. No! This is basically one of the worst mistakes the Russian man-child has ever done, as he literally caused his own death at the hands of the badass Messiah himself. Of course, after all of those events, John Wick goes on a freaking killing spree where he murders 100 Russian henchmen and successfully kills the Russian man-child and his dad, Vigo. He also gets a new dog in the end, by the way. Aww. What I really love about this movie is that it tells a really basic and or simplistic story. The action sequences are very much the highlight of the entire franchise, and I like how fluid and realistic the fight scenes are in this film. But what really makes this movie really good is none other than the main character himself, John Wick. The character is very compelling, and the rest of the characters pretty much react and act the way that they should due to...
Vulture!
Yeah, you get it. Chad Stahelski's direction is really good, knowing that he is a professional stuntman himself. Explains why the action sequences in these movies are really good. Derek Kolstad's script is brilliant. It subverts expectations while also keeping it refreshing to a lot of viewers. Overall, I really love this film. It's such a brilliant introduction to this world with its characters, amazing set pieces, extremely awesome action sequences, and just an overall amazing experience. Okay, on to the next one.
You wanted me back. I'm back.
Chapter 2 basically picks up literally after the events of the first film, or weeks after the events of the first film. This time, however, the story is more complex, so bear with me. John Wick, after recovering his Mustang, gets a visit from one of his old boss, Santino D'Antonio. Yes, I am referring to the main antagonist's name this time. You're welcome. Santino wants John Wick to do something for him, but John Wick denies. And with that denial, Santino blows up John Wick's house. This dude never gets a break. Of course, John Wick goes ahead and agrees to what Santino wants him to do, which is to kill his sister due to her being the one in higher power. Wow, that's a bit fucked up. John Wick goes to Rome and upgrades all of his equipment like a freaking video game character. Or yeah, I may be exaggerating, but he basically just went shopping for equipment that he needs and information that he requires. After that satisfying montage of John Wick shopping, he goes ahead to where Santino's sister Gianna D'Antonio is to finally do Santino's dirty work, He succeeds in killing Gianna and escapes by again murdering 100 henchmen. John Wick goes back to New York where Santino has put a bounty into his head. He keeps getting wounded and finally does the infamous pencil kill that I forgot to mention was mentioned in the first movie. He retreats as he is literally bleeding out and meets Morpheus. No, wait, I meant the Bowery King. The Bowery King helps John to get to Santino by giving him a gun. John again kills like 1,000 henchmen and successfully kills Santino after chasing him through an awesome set piece. But with it, caused him to become an excommunicado because he killed Santino. So though this movie is more complex, this is my favorite amongst the franchise, as it perfectly blends the simplicity and complexity to its overall story, and fully expands the world that it has already introduced. It's also very artistic with its neo-noir tone and vibrant aesthetic that shines throughout that it never lets me go whenever I watch this film. The choreography still continues to be the best and improves a lot in terms of its melee and hand-to-hand combat. Especially the final shootout with Santino at the Hall of Mirrors, the shootout at Gianna's coronation party, John Wick and Cassian's awesome fight outside the Continental at Rome, and while John Wick was nearly assassinated by, like, 100 assassins. And the amount of detail and artistic choices that were shown in this film is so mind-blowing that I just can't help but be amazed by it. Overall, I just think that this film is the most enjoyable because of its artistic, complex, well choreographed with its amazing sound design and soundtrack, and just an overall one of the best movies and the best John Wick movie that I've ever watched. Again, I might be biased for this one just because it's my favorite. But who cares? It's my opinion. Anyways, on to the last one.
I'm a huge fan, John Wick. And so far you haven't disappointed.
With this one, it's much more complex than the previous one, so again, bear with me. Chapter 3 literally picks up moments after Chapter 2 ended, where John Wick finds himself getting hunted down by more assassins and bounty hunters due to him having a bounty of over $14 million. Which, yeah, that's a lot of money. Of course, as usual, he manages to kill all of them in very creative ways. He manages to go to the desert with the help of his friend Sophia, and while lost like a fart in the desert, a group of ninjas that are hired by the adjudicator back at New York are punishing the people that helped John Wick. After being found by people who sits above the table, as they call it, clear John Wick's name as excommunicado as long as he kills Winston, John Wick's main ally throughout the entire trilogy. Of course, John agrees and goes back to New York, where he is greeted by the ninja group led by Zero. He kills the motorcycle ninja gang and makes it back to the Continental. Winston talks some sense into John and makes up his mind about killing Winston. The adjudicator isn't happy about this and revokes the Continental. Of course, like a freaking video game, John equips the finest of guns and his enemies upgraded from level 1 to level 10. He manages to kill all of them and heads back to Winston where he makes up his mind and attempts to kill John because of the adjudicator's deal with him. John Wick survives and so is the Bowery King, and we're finally heading to Chapter 4. Woo! Overall, however, I was a bit conflicted with this one when I first watched it. I felt like at first the movie was a bit bloated compared to the other two, and it kind of dragged a bit too much when I first watched it, but that doesn't mean that I don't love it. With my recent rewatch, I came to love and appreciate this one, but that's just because the movie is still really good. It's just my opinion, okay? Still, Chapter 3 is by far the most creative, artistic, amazingly choreographed, visually stunning, and again, a well-directed film like the other two. The soundtrack is still really good and continues to improve a lot over the series or franchise's standards. So, in my overall final thoughts before I end this video, I just think or know that this series or franchise is by far one of the best experiences of my life. It's a gripping, engaging, complex yet simplistic story that's filled with a stellar cast and crew that truly cares about the craft that they're making. It's made with a lot of love and care, and it deeply makes you engage throughout the entire storyline and details that are being presented on screen. And with Chapter 4 on the horizon, I just want to say that I am very excited for the future of this series, and my deepest love and respect to anyone who are involved in this series. If they won't screw it up at least. Oh wait, there are movies like the John Wick movies, such as Nobody and Atomic Blonde, movies that are made by the same crew, so it does give me hope that there will be a potential crossover between these badasses. Especially Nobody. Yeah, Nobody is really good and I highly recommend that one too. But I don't want to talk about that right now. Anyways, that's all there is to say for now, nothing else. I'll see you all in the next one.